Hey there, YouTube. Want to make a quick video here on gear cleansing and Raid Shadow Legends. So I've watched a lot of videos, other people talking about this, and I wanted to add a few tips that specifically around using the Hellhades Optimiser for gear cleansing that I haven't really seen talked about a whole lot. I think they're helpful for me at least for cleansing out my artifacts. A quick disclaimer that these are just rules that I use. I'm no expert in Raid Shadow Legends. I've been playing for a long time, but uh, I am nowhere near some of the people who are doing all of the content in the game and stuff. So a big disclaimer to use caution when following these rules. To start out with, there's a lot of kind of basic gear cleansing rules that people will talk about. So just a recap of those things like if you're looking at gear in your bottom three slots here, if it has flat stats on it, generally that's stuff that you probably want to sell. So for example, this piece has defense as a flat stat here. Um, and it's kind of the idea is why would you get a piece with defense as a flat stat when you could get defense percentage instead, and get a much higher value out of that stat. So that's a basic one. Is try to sell that stuff off as much as you can. Another one is to look for stuff that has substats on it, which are flat stats. So, especially like, all right, if for example this thing has a couple different flat stats on it, and then especially after you roll it up, for example, this piece of gear has a flat attack roll on it. Generally, the more flat stats that you have, as a general rule of thumb, kind of the worse, right? So, so those are a couple basic ones. Is kind of do what you can to get rid of flat stats in your gear. Um, Another one. So this next one, I'm sure it's obvious to a lot of people, but I hadn't thought about it for a while in my account. But so this one is to basically try to set up a kind of minimum quality that you're willing to accept on your account. Um, so as time goes on and you get further in the game, you'll get access to higher and higher levels of gear, higher ranks and higher rarities of gear. And so if you use the filtering over here, you can find all of your old stuff, right? So you can say, find all the one star gear and sell it, find all the 3-star gear and sell it, or whatever else. But the idea here is to kind of, as your account gets further and further in the game, you want to be more and more selective about the gear that you're willing to accept. Um, so, for example, on my account, I don't have any 1-star to 4-star gear. I have some 5-star gear here. I've sold off all the common and uncommon 5-star gear. Now, I do have a little bit of 5-star rare gear, but 87 pieces out of about 1,500. And so I have a lot of 5-star epic gear, it looks like. But, the general idea is to try to, as time goes on, sell off as much of the low end stuff as you can. And then, maybe I keep playing for another month or something, and I decide, I'm going to sell off all the 5-star epic gear, and now I'm only going to be accepting of stuff that's 5-star legendary or mythical, or 6-star um, anything, right? So you're kind of putting a minimum bar on what gear you want to accept, and you're gradually increasing that over time. So that kind of gives you a quick and easy way to clear out a lot of stuff, right? Um, so that's kind of a basic idea there, but it's helpful for me at least for because the thing I run into here is um, with 1,500 pieces, you run into decision fatigue because for every piece of gear in here, you have to make a ton of decisions, right? So you have to look at this and say, well, all right. Are the stats good on it? Are the substats good? Are the rolls good on it? Do the stats and the rolls do they match up with the set uh, for this piece of gear? Can I imagine any champions that would use this particular piece of gear? And you have to make that decision across 1,500 plus pieces of gear. It's just a huge amount of mental effort to do all that. And so I'm always looking for like basically quick ideas that'll allow me to cut cut that thinking out of it as much as I can. All right, so that's those rules, and then now digging into the Hellhades Optimizer. So I've just started using this recently, and this is very helpful. Um, so so what you could do in here, if you go into, so you have to set up the optimizer and run the artifact extractor, and what that'll do, it'll if you go to this raidoptimizer.hellhades.com here, and you go to artifacts, it'll give you a list of all the artifacts in your account here. Um, and you can take those. It kind of gives you like almost like a more advanced version of the filtering that's built into the base game. So I can go in here and say, um, I want to show artifacts or accessories or everything, or just accessories. I want to show stuff that's equipped on champions, stuff that's not equipped, uh, right? Stuff that has whatever substats and stats. Um, but the part that I think is really valuable is that they calculate a rating for the artifact. So looking at this artifact here, I have two ratings here. The white rating here is what they rate the current value of this artifact, and they have kind of a rating scale here. So godlike is the highest rating, and Ben is the lowest rating. So for example, this piece of gear, it's Ben, which is the lowest rating according to their calculation at least. And the potential for this, if this was perfectly, if it rolled perfectly and got perfect stats on it, it would, its potential would be to move up 3 or 4 ranks here to this average category, right? So, so that's really useful because in raid, um, the thing is when you get a piece of gear, you're not getting just a piece of gear. You're getting a thing here that has potential. Um, That might sound a little confusing, but what I mean is, so I have this life piece of gear with these substats on it, and this has potential to be better or worse depending on how it rolls. So, for example, if I get a triple speed roll on it, then it would be a lot more valuable than if I got a triple HP roll. And so there's a range of possibilities for what every piece of gear could be in my account. Um, and so kind of the name of the one of the names of the game when doing artifact cleansing is to remove that range of possibilities, right? A uh, so you have a kind of a minimum level of what the quality is, which is kind of what its level is now, and then you have its potential, which is how good it could be if it rolls up. Um, and so again, looking for quick filters, what I've been doing here is basically I say, all right, and I'm just kind of taking their ratings uh, without looking into it too much. You should probably look into it more, and there's probably a lot of caveats behind their rating system. But you know, it allows me to quickly clear out stuff here. So one easy rule here is if the potential on the artifact is bin, if the in other words, if the best this artifact can ever be after rolling and putting resources into it is the lowest level of quality, then that's stuff that I probably want to sell, right? Um, so, right, that's a and actually you can see they show the maximum artifact potential here as well. So, for example, looking at this piece of gear here, it has a flat attack roll and HP percent roll. So they're saying if this rolled perfectly by their calculations, at least, then this is what it would roll up to: a double roll on HP percent, and then add a speed substat and a crit rate substat. And so they're judging this piece of gear as a bin. Um, so again, if it can only ever be in this lowest level of quality, then that's maybe something to consider selling. And likewise, if you take the same idea about kind of increasing your minimum threshold for what you consider to be acceptable on your account and apply it to here, you can say, all right, I'm going to start off selling all the bin artifacts, and then, well, maybe I also want to sell everything that's very weak or weak. or I want to sell all the stuff that's average or below, for example. All right, so all right, if you just make that decision to do that, then here's 145 artifacts that I can just kind of auto sell off. All right, because no matter how good I roll into this, it's only ever going to be average. If again, if you take their rating system as being accurate. So that's one thing you could do is kind of set like a minimum bar and sell stuff below that minimum bar. Um, Now another kind of a variation on that is you can say, all right, so let's say for example, so for my account where I'm at is I'm keeping anything that has average potential or higher. So basically, this is the stuff that I'm trying to keep on my account. Um, so if you look here, I've sold off pretty much all of this stuff that's below average. Now, another thing you can do is you can say, all right, so the potential is, so I haven't sold off the stuff that has the potential to be average because that's a level of gear that I'm satisfied with keeping. Um, but what I can do is reduce the uncertainty here. So, for example, I can look at stuff here that's currently bin. So it's currently at the lowest level of quality, but it has the potential to be average here. And then what I can do is I can spend uh, put 4 levels uh, into it and see if that changes the potential. So what you're trying to do here is as you invest silver into the artifact, you're trying to see if it rolls really bad. All right, so for example, for this piece of gear, if this rolled flat defense, maybe that brings the potential from average down to weak or very weak. If that happens, then now we're below my threshold for what I want to keep on my account, and then I can sell it off. All right. So just to kind of walk through that as an example, really quick. Excuse me. So this is resistance here. And if I find that helmet, so defense percentage, crit damage percent. All right, so this is this piece of gear here. So this has potential to be average according to the optimizer. So I raise it up to 4. It rolls defense percentage, so you'll see on here. So its potential is still average. So it still could be acceptable for me potentially. Now let's try this one. So here's an attack percentage chest. Roll this up to 4. It rolls flat attack. And it still has potential to be average, which is a little bit surprising, but because I figured with a flat attack that might bump it down. But maybe it would have to do a double flat attack or something to, move it down a category. But let's do a couple more just to kind of drive the idea home. So life steal here. Crit damage percent, crit rate percent, defense. Roll this up. The other point too here is doing this roll up to 4, so that went to average. It cost me like 6,000 silver, 7,000 silver, something like that. So it's like we're not spending hardly any silver at all here. Now this one's a little bit surprising, being average here because it's lifesteal gear. It's got percentages across the board here, and maybe this could be good for a HP nuker or a defense nuker. But they rate it as an average. So again, kind of your mileage may vary on this stuff. But I want to show just let's see, defense percentage. So a lot of times we're not really bringing the average down here. But I've seen a few cases where it does. I just want to get one example on video here just to demonstrate. Let's see. Okay, there we go. So the potential on that one, it went from average down to weak. And again, like I said, I'm selling anything that's basically under this threshold. And so now if I update my filters and say I just want the stuff that's in these lower tiers, there should be some new stuff in here. I'm not sure why it's not showing up there, but I don't know. I might have done something wrong. But anyways, so that's the idea behind that technique is to so what we're doing here is we're removing uncertainty from the account. So again here, it's not that we have pieces of gear, it's we have possibilities for gear. We have 1492 possibilities for gear that we could get. And so by investing four levels into it, we reduce the uncertainty quite a bit. Um, so we know we have a much better idea of if this is going to be a good piece or a bad piece. And it doesn't cost a lot of silver to do it. And if you know it's going to be a bad piece, then just kind of sell it off and be done with it, kind of thing. So that's that idea. And then the last one here is to, all right, kind of after you've cleansed, what do you roll up? So another nice thing in the optimizer here, you can, instead of looking at the bottom range, you can also look at the top range. So you can say, what's the stuff that has the highest potential in my account? So for example, here's, I think this provoke gear. So I can find that and let's see here. Resistance accuracy, correct percent. All right. So invest 4 levels into it extremely cheaply. All right. And then so potential was godlike. What's it go to? It goes up to, it's still godlike. The potential is still godlike. A lot of times when you do this, the potential will drop down quite a bit. Let's try this one here. Potential is godlike. And so, all right, so the potential drops down to legendary. So again, what we're doing is we're investing a little bit of silver into it, and by doing that, we're reducing the uncertainty around the gear quality. Um, and so the more we can do that, of course, it costs silver to do all this, but if you stay at level 4, then you can get a lot better idea of what your gear is going to look like over time. So, anyways, that's all for now. I just wanted to share all that, some information about how to say some other tips for gear cleansing that I haven't seen discussed too much. Anyways, that's all. Thanks.